This is why MicroStrategy's stock price makes no sense. So this was actually shared to me by an LPP member. He went ahead and did some digging, and I found this to be very interesting. You guys let me know down in the comments section what you think. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So this is from a guy on X.com named Gary Black. And this is where everything is being shared. All good and all bad, right? MSTR stock price makes no sense to me. MicroStrategy owned about 331,000 Bitcoins at last count, which is roughly right around $31 billion. For those that do not know, MicroStrategy has been an exceptionally bullish stock lately because of its very unique approach in the way that this company is being ran. Just imagine a software company all of a sudden changing its direction, where no longer is its main business or main focus developing and growing the software business, but it's actually selling its own shares and using the money from the sale of their own shares to buy Bitcoin. Think about it almost as a fund, right? This is what people have been viewing as a leading indicator. And no, this is not an ETF. No, this is, not just any indirect way to kind of like buy Bitcoin. You're simply investing in a security, right? Or buying a stock known as MSTR, and all the craze and all the hype is, hey, the co-founder and CEO or co-founder of MSTR is buying a bunch of Bitcoin. We're bullish on Bitcoin. Bitcoin price is going up. This thing's going to the moon. That is truly like the psychology behind this, right? So, and I think that this guy, Gary, does a very good job breaking it down. So they own about 331,000 Bitcoins at last count, worth about $31 billion, roughly right around 100K per Bitcoin. Pretty fair, right? Bitcoin's not currently at 100,000, but just, marking it up. And has about $4.2 billion of net debt, which is equivalent to a net of $27 billion in equity value. Great. That's impressive, right? They have a lot in cash as they've changed their entire direction and focus of the company. $27 billion in equity value. Nice. By comparison, MSTR stock value as of right now is $106 billion. So if you look at this, as of right now, I guess from when that tweet was shared, it was when it was inflated to highs of $148 per share. Right now it's trading at $435 per share after market hours, which is roughly about an $86 billion valuation. So how do you, right? Because we all know the software business side of things is not worth much, right? It's not $1 billion company because of that as of right now. It's because of this whole strategy of investing into Bitcoin that Saylor, the co-founder, has now taken. The crazy part about this is that the software business isn't worth much. I estimate that MSTR shares should be worth about 105 per share, which is about 75% lower than what they are currently trading at this morning. Unless MSTR's Bitcoins are worth 4 times what everyone else's Bitcoins are worth, how does anyone get a $90 billion valuation on a company that's sole focus is simply buying Bitcoin? And this is a really good question because I feel like this was a lot of people's comments in my previous video of MSTR is a closed-ended fund. No, it's not. It's or is it a growth equity? They have about $7.3 billion in earnings year to date and are growing at 75% per Michael Saylor's recent comments, which again, their growth is based off of Bitcoin's holding, right? Like the gains that they've made that are unrealized on Bitcoin's price. So as Bitcoin continues to increase in value, that is what they're making. The underlying business has no growth, meaning the software of MicroStrategy, what originally started as MicroStrategy, has no growth. So the only real value is supposedly the growth from their Bitcoin holding. It's not their business that's growing. And that's the crazy part about this, is that MicroStrategy as a software business makes no sense. But all this hype and craze is around MicroStrategy that, again, all they are doing is buying Bitcoin. So no one is paying for growth that because anyone can simply buy Bitcoin. And that's the part that just baffles me, is that, whoa, this guy's buying a bunch of Bitcoin. They're about to have $100 billion in assets because of their Bitcoin investment. So what does that do for anyone? All they're doing is buying Bitcoin. And if you're so bullish on Bitcoin, why wouldn't you just buy Bitcoin yourself? Everyone has the option to buy Bitcoin. But they think that MicroStrategy is this like new innovative way to be able to invest in Bitcoin, where all they are doing and all their growth consists of is buying Bitcoin. And that's the part that is just insane, is that, well, you don't know future earnings. The biggest brands, such as big tech, are usually worth 5 to 20 times their capital value, which is, again, just, it does not compare, because no brand such as Apple, Microsoft, Berkshire Hathaway, Nvidia, whatever those companies might be, those are based off of projected growth, because they're companies that have actual software that are actually valuable, that expect to continue to grow and experience of greater demand. MSTR does not. MSTR's growth is all based off of Bitcoin's price. So it brings me back to the same example. Well, then why don't you just buy Bitcoin? And that's where the disconnect is. People are being sold that, oh, this time and what this company is doing is so innovative. All they are doing is buying Bitcoin. There's nothing special about this company. So them being worth any more than what Bitcoin's price is currently valued at and what they currently have in assets makes completely insane. And what happens when Bitcoin's price begins to tank? Well, then what's going to happen to MicroStrategy, right? Because all this hype has began to happen as Bitcoin enters this bull run, which is very easy to hype up a stock because, again, everything is in your favor. But then it's when things are not as clear that, again, the markets begin to sell off and people begin to understand that, wow, all this company is really doing is investing in Bitcoin. There really isn't anything special about this company. But don't get me wrong. While this hype is still here and the stock still continues to run up because of a bunch of idiots that don't understand that there is no actual value from MicroStrategy and all they're doing is buying Bitcoin, it makes sense on why you're day trading it, right? So if it continues to run up 5, 10, 20, 30%, run up the hype. It reminds me of AMC, GME, or the whole DJT movement, right? It's a pump and dump. And it's a short-lived pump and dump. There is not one stock in history that runs up 300% in 60 to 80 days that doesn't end up correcting itself. What goes up that quick will always come back down. And if you don't think so, put your money where your mouth is. If you think that MSTR is such an innovative company, I bet you, right? Put your money where your mouth is. Buy it at 420, 430, 440 per share and hold it, right? Because if you're investing into a company for the future, then you shouldn't care that it maybe pulls back 30, 40, 50% in the next few weeks, right? That's simple. I have nothing against, obviously, people that bought at very oversold levels, that bought, again, while this thing was still indicating signs of an uptrend. But when something runs up 300, 400%, and you are still so blind to think that this thing is going to continue to skyrocket when all the company does is buy Bitcoin, is absolutely insane. And everything that happens to you after is the position that you chose to put yourself in. Make educated decisions. There's nothing wrong with trading a hyped up, overvalued piece of shit company like MicroStrategy, but know when to take profits. And that is the most important part about this, because we all know it's a fact. When Bitcoin stock price begins to tank, MicroStrategy should therefore be worth less, because their average purchase price as they continue to invest in Bitcoin at these extremely overbought levels will only yield a loss, and therefore putting shareholders in a worse position than if they just owned the actual asset itself of Bitcoin. I want to remind you, remove all of the hype. Look at the actual numbers. Ignore this whole pressure of people trying to convince you to invest in the next big thing, and see what it actually is. You're investing in a publicly traded company that all they do is invest in Bitcoin as it's at all-time highs. Why not just invest in Bitcoin yourself? Makes no sense. The stock is trading at 5, 6 times their actual owned value. And as soon as Bitcoin stock begins to tank, it's going to be very interesting to see how they hold. So very excited to follow up. Hope that earned your thumbs up, and excited to hear what your guys' opinions are about MicroStrategy. How is it that you justify that this is a company worth investing in when all they do is invest in Bitcoin? Why not just invest in Bitcoin yourself? It makes no sense to me. So I'd love to learn more. Feel free to let me know down in the comment section. And again, whenever you're ready to watch us trade live every single morning to trade these pump and dumps, second link in the description down below. You can join us for as little as $1 a day. Appreciate your time. Like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take care, team.